Now, after taking some time and thinking about your story, you may have come to the conclusion that your story wasn't clear. I want you to know that that's not unusual at all. One of the most important things you can do is get clarity for yourself about your own personal testimony and how you met Christ, and being confident that you have a relationship with Christ. So if you maybe don't have clarity about your story or would like to ask some questions along those lines, I want to encourage you to talk to one of your class leaders right now. They would be more than happy to help you get some clarity about your own story. Now, I fully realize that there are many different ways of sharing the gospel, and you may have a way that you've used for a while that you feel comfortable with, that comes across in a natural and unforced way. By all means, keep using that. The most important thing is that when you're sharing with someone how to begin a relationship with Christ, that you actually tell the gospel story. In Romans 1, Paul says, "I'm not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God to save." You see, the power of changing hearts and changing lives doesn't depend on you or me and how eloquent we are. It depends on the power of that message, the gospel, and that is Jesus Christ came to earth and lived among us as a human. He never sinned. He was crucified on a cross for our sins. He was buried and raised again on the third day. That's the gospel. That's what we have to communicate to people. And it's by beginning a relationship with Him and trusting Him as Lord of our life that we can enter into eternal salvation and to an eternal relationship with God. Now, if you don't have a method of sharing that, in your outline that you have before you is a simple way that we submit to you if you would like to look over and use for yourself and accommodate that into your story and be able to effectively use that in a way that's not canned or forced, but in a way that is really natural, then by all means study it and apply it to your life.
A few years ago, we had a Southwestern book salesman come to the door one evening and knock on the door, and I stepped out on the front porch, and he had me from the word go, and he was writing down several books that I wanted to purchase, and then when he got ready to close the sale, I said, "Let me check with my wife," and she said, she stepped outside and said, "Now's not a real good time to be buying books." And so his face just dropped. He lost the order, and he got on his bicycle and rode down the street. And I went back in the house and got back busy doing what I was doing, and I noticed a storm came in, electrical storm, lightning popping to the ground, and I thought about that boy on his bicycle going through our neighborhood. And so I got in my truck and rode around and found him. And I said, "You need to go wherever you're going." I said, "I can take you, put your bike in the back of the truck, but there's a storm coming up." And he said, "Well, I really need to work some more." He said, "Do you think it's going to rain?" And he looked up, and I kid you not, the biggest raindrop hit him right in the eye. And he looked at his watch and he said, "It's 8:45, I'm supposed to work till 9 o'clock. And I said, "Really, this is a bad storm. You need to get out of here." And he said, "No, I'm going to work some more." I said, "Well, you know where I live." So about 15 minutes later, it's pouring down rain. He knocks on the door, and so we threw his truck, bike in the back of my truck, and I took him over to an elementary school and dropped him off. He was going to meet a buddy, was going to come pick him up, and I got in my car and was headed back home. And in my mind, I just wanted to get back to whatever it was I was doing. I was totally thinking about me. And when I got to the end of that long drive out of the elementary school, I was at the stop sign, and I was thinking, turn left, go home, get back into the TV or whatever it was I was doing. Or I could turn right and go back and talk to this guy about Christ. And I just struggled there for a minute. Turn left, go home, turn right, go share. And a lot of times I think about missed opportunities to share the gospel. And that came to mind, and I thought, I don't want to miss this opportunity. So I went back around there and I said, "Hey, maybe a few minutes before your buddy comes, I bet you're hungry. I'll take you down to the store and get you some food." So I did. I took him down to get some food. And then on the way back to the school, I'm struggling with, how do I approach this with him? How do I bring up the topic about Christ? And maybe I asked him something like, "Where do you go to church?" or something like that. And he looks me right in the eye and he says, "I just don't understand how you can know for sure that you can go to heaven." And I thought, what a perfect opportunity. This guy's begging me to share Christ with him. So I shared the gospel with him, and he prayed to receive Christ right there on the spot. And it was just a terrific experience for me to get to be a part of. God was just letting me be a part of what he was doing. And I was really trying to stay home and be a part of what I was doing.
Right here up this hill, December 16th, 1864, the Union Army finally broke through the Confederate line and delivered a crushing defeat to the Army of Tennessee. A Confederate soldier by the name of William Shy gave his life here that day, and this hill is named after him, Shy's Hill. But it's interesting to me, unfortunately, that the name of this hill is more symbolic of the reason for the Confederate defeat than it is for the man for whom it was named. Because many historians believe that if General Hood and the Confederate troops would have actually intentionally engaged the Union Army, the results could have been much different. Instead, they shied away from the battle and waited on the action to come to them, and the results were disastrous. My challenge for you today is to not shy away from the task of sharing your faith. Consider these habits that we've talked about and incorporate them into your lives. Be intentional. Be intentional in building relationships with people. Be intentional in looking for ways to meet their needs, and be intentional in praying by name for those lost friends and family members that you know need to start a relationship with Christ. Be intentional in sharing your story, and then learn how to present the gospel in a natural and unthreatening way. And then be prepared to watch God move in a miraculous way.